Alright everyone, thanks for joining us at Radio and Electronics Hub. Today we're going to be talking about the new release of software by Radio and Electronics Hub developers for the sBitx hardware by HF Signals. So if you own a sBitx radio, whether it be a Developers Edition, V2, or V3, which is what they're currently selling, you can install our software for free on your sBitx and get a lot more features out of it. So we are volunteer developers that we're working on this open source project. So we hope you enjoy our new release. So starting out today, we are looking at a brand new operating system that I put together for the sBitx based on Debian and Trixie. So Trixie is the latest release of the Raspberry Pi OS and Debian software, and it includes a lot of security features, enhancements, some other things that improve the performance of your Raspberry Pi and the software that runs on it, including the Raspberry Pi 4 and the Pi 5 that is now available for upgrade on these sBitxes. So one thing you'll notice is that got a great new background here, and we have our logo on there as well, so you know which version you're running. There will be a SD card image that will be available to download with the new Trixie image on here, including the new and updated software that we have, including WSJTX and some updates to that and other software. So if we look in our ham radio folder, we can see some of the different things we have on here. MSHV, the trusted, the logbook of the world, QSS-TV, some 73 Linux applications, grid tracker, WSJTX tools, JSA call, and JTDX. So there are a bunch of tools on here, as well as a hotspot feature. So you can enable a hotspot that does not interfere with your regular wireless connection. So you can set this up if you don't have a wireless access point. You can actually turn your radio into an access point that you can connect up to your phone, etc. if you're out in the field. There's a README right here, readme.txt for this. This is similar to my last image that I created, as well as the call setup. So again, if you would run this, you can, I clicked it too many times, sorry. If you run this, you can enter your call sign in your grid location in there, and it will update these applications automatically for you. So if you're on a pod activation and you want to change your grid locator, you can do that easily without having to go into each application. Let's see. We do have some new applications that have been in the sBitx toolbox. So if you upgraded your toolbox to version 3.08, you'll notice that there is an application here called Band Conditions and one called Style Editor. Band Conditions is basically what it says is it gives you current band conditions based on solar data and some other aggregate data. The Style Editor, this is new, and I was informing folks that this was going to be useful in the upcoming release, which is what we're talking about today, version 5.4. So we will dive into that in a little bit. But first of all, let's go ahead and launch the sBitx application for version 5.4. And as you see here, we have our typical display with the typical colors and layouts and everything that you're used to. Some things have moved around a little bit in this version, so I've rearranged some of the buttons here that were more useful to operating close to the frequency display. Move the tune button and move some things out of the menu to declutter them. So menu 1 is mostly audio controls and audio settings that reflect audio, with the exception for our tune duration and tune power. And you'll notice a new feature called sweep and SWR sweep and SWR step. But if you're looking for some of the things that were in the menu 1 they have now been moved to menu 2. So let's go back to menu 1 for a moment, and we'll talk about some of the new features in the menu. So we have now controlled envelope single sideband. So there's a button here, you can turn this on or off. And what this does is it's a new DSP processing, audio processing to analyze your signal and give you up to a 4 dB gain. So it's uses the same amount of bandwidth as before. Some other radios are currently using this as well, and we've implemented it on our platform. So I encourage you to leave it on and use it, because it'll punch through signals a lot better and give you a lot more forward gain. By the way, if you use that, it does not overdrive your signal like a normal SSB conversation would. So that's one of our new features. Another new feature is the SWR sweep function. So much like some of the Yaesu and ICOM and Kenwood radios, including the Xiegu G90, have a sweep function. So if you wanted to check your antenna conditions, if you're retuning an antenna or whatever, you can use the SWR sweep function. So in that particular case, I'm going to make sure my tune power is all the way down, because I am on an antenna here. So I'm going to move down here. So anyways, you can set your SWR sweep with, you can select how many increments you want to test at. So if in this particular case, since I'm on the 20 meter band, I can set this to, the default is 10, so we'll leave it at 10. And if I hit SWR sweep, it's going to go ahead and use my tune power and check starting at the lowest possible part of the band to the upper part of the band and give you a readout of what your SWR is across the band. So let's go ahead and do that now. All right, perfect. So it looks like my antenna is tuned pretty well here. You'll notice that my SWR is 1.5, starting at 1400, and all the way up to 14350. It's still 1.5. Now, if I increase my power to something a little more reasonable, it might give me a more accurate SWR measurement. But this gives you a good idea on where your antenna is at and how to tune it. Let's get out of the menu here and go back to the main screen. So one of the other things you'll notice is that previously we used to have used to press like the first part of the frequency here to bring up a direct frequency entry keypad. That has been moved because that has been proven to be cumbersome. That has moved to its own button now, since we have a bunch of real estate up here, and it's called pad. So pad is short for keypad. So if you click that, you bring that up here, and you'll see I have a couple of shortcuts on the side here that you can now press if you wanted to check the time signals and for propagation and things like that. You can press those. There's also a button here for the broadcast AM band and a few of the shortwave broadcast bands as well. But if you wanted to use this, it's very similar to what it was in the past. Let's say I wanted to type in 14250, enter. You'll see that we're now on 14.250. Now the keypad does not change your mode, so you'll have to make sure that if you want to change that back to upper sideband, you do that here. Another new feature that I've added in here is you'll notice that we have FM mode. So FM mode was something that I wanted to get in here for a while because I do use a transverter on 10 meters, and if you noticed with the software that our 10 meter band goes all the way up to 32 megahertz, and you're probably wondering why. Well, that's the reason why, because that helps cover the Ukrainian transverters that are available on eBay. But one of the things is that it was great for AM, but we didn't have FM. So I added FM mode here. This works as normal, just like any of the other modes, except with the addition of a squelch. So you can adjust your squelch here. And you can also put your CTCSS tone in here. So this would be your transmit tone, and then you could also have a receive tone if you wanted to put that in there so you can access a repeater. This is also useful for 10 meters if you want to use the repeaters on 10 meters as well. In addition to FM mode, we've added the squelch to AM mode because we know some people prefer to have a squelch on AM mode as well, so the same function applies there. And let's go through some of, well, I guess I'll talk about the web interface changes. We're not going to pull that up right now, but I can talk through those. The web interface has some new features, as well as, let's see, where am I go? I lost my place. Sorry about that. Oh, where is it? There are some more buttons available on the web interface. I should say controls, not buttons. There are more controls on the web interface now. There's a in the grid map, there's an image with the grid map, and it shows you your contacts. There's some new options in there, so we can you can choose square or round grid dots. You could choose scene grids or unlogged grids, so there's some toggle options in there as well to give you better visibility when you're using FT8 or FT4. And basically what that does is it just pulls from your log that's built into the radio. Another great feature is now maybe I should go back to, let's go back to FT8. You'll notice that we now have a tune function in here. So in addition to CW mode, I've now added tune function to the FT4 and FT8 modes, so there's no need to move out of band or change your mode to perform a tune function. So it's done automatically right in the software. So no need to change modes anymore. Let's see, we talked about SWR suite. So there is now in the SWR protection mode, there is now a it works a little bit differently. In the past, when you exceeded your SWR threshold, so say for example if it was at 3 and you were at 3.1, you would automatically see you would see a message on the display that says high SWR. In order to clear that condition, you would have to first of all fix the antenna and then transmit, and then wait for it to measure a lower SWR before it would fix the condition, so you could transmit again. That was a little bit cumbersome, so now instead of waiting for that condition to clear, there is a 10-second delay. So if you transmit and all of a sudden your SWR goes out of whack, goes over your threshold, if you wait 10 seconds and transmit again, it will clear that message and it'll let you transmit at the power rating that you had instead of reducing it. So that is a little nicer than what we used to have there. Another thing that we've added, this is Great for remote listening, monitoring, or if you want to use a different user interface for receiving, and especially for the noise reduction modes and things like that. We've now added Protocol 1, which is similar to what Hermes Lite would use. And Protocol 1 is basically sending a stream of IQ data out from the sBitx. So that data stream is available over Wi-Fi or Ethernet, or even locally on the sBitx here. So if you would use like SDR console, HP, Pi HPSDR, Desk HPSDR, Lin HPSDR, any of those variants that can support Protocol 1, you can utilize those for listening to your basically on your sBitx here. Now the transmit functionality has not been completed yet. We're still working out some bugs on that. But right now, if you would load like SDR console on your Windows computer or Mac, you can control the sBitx application and get your audio streams through there and utilize their noise reduction functions. So we're hoping in the future we'll get that working. We've also added an ALC power reduction. So most other commercial radios have an ALC function of some sort that reduce power if you're starting to overdrive the finals or the platform. So that's meant to reduce splatter and obviously protect your finals as well. In order to enable that, what you'll have to do is go into your home Pi sBitx data folder, and you'll have to update your hw_settings.ini file. So I'm going to open mine and show you. You'll notice that my file has this new line in each one of the bands called max_watts equals. So what you would do is you would set your max_watts in here to whatever the max power output for that band. And as you know, the sBitx has varying output power based on the band that you're on. So like, say for example, if I was on 10 meters, I would probably be like, I don't have a setting in here, so I'm going to go ahead and copy this one and paste that. I'm going to want that to be 10. My max output will be 10 watts. So if I have a third-party application that's overdriving and or if I set my scale incorrectly or something happens with the radio, basically what'll happen is it'll monitor the forward power and reduce it back. So if I'm putting out 13 watts on 10 meters, it'll automatically reduce that, and it'll give a warning, or not a warning, but a display that says ALC on the screen here. So in order to demonstrate that, what I'm going to do is, since we're on, well, let's go to 10 meters. So we're at 28.5, and on 10 meters, I'm going to set my max watts to, so we're going to set it to 3. We're going to really be conservative here, okay? So I'm going to save that. Now, in order for the changes to take effect, I have to restart the sBitx application. So I'm going to close that, restart it, and now that I restarted it, now that I've saved my settings here for my hw_settings.ini file, I'm going to set my mode to two-tone just to do this test. My drive level is set at 50, and we're going to transmit. You see that? So we're just about 3 watts. Now if I set this a little bit more and transmit, you'll notice that it says ALC here, and my wattage or output is over 3 watts. So it's actually reducing. You'll notice that my signal is not truly linear, so it's trying to reduce that signal down to 3 watts. What it's doing is, number one, protecting the band from splatter, and number two, protecting your finals from overheating and shortening the life of them as well. So that is a nice feature to have, and we're hoping that it helps you guys with your finals so you don't have to replace them as often. So I'm going to set this back to 10, and then I'll close it. But if you want to change this, you can use on my wiki, on the GitHub page, there is a recommended wattage or output wattage that you can set for the V3s. If you're on a V2, you can set that to about 35 or 40 watts, depending on what you want to set it at. Or if you want to really protect the finals, you can knock it all the way down to 25 watts. So we're going to close that. And we'll go through some of the other features. One of the things that that I like to use with this radio is a USB headset. So if you're familiar with my previous iterations of the Toolbox Applications, there is you can add it. It's called USB headset. You can or sBitx headset. You can certainly add that. And that was a clunky way of getting the USB headset to work with the sBitx software. Well, I've added it as an option into the settings. So if you go into menu 1 and go to set, you'll notice here that you'll have this information up here, but now you'll have audio devices. So we have USB out and USB mic. So the USB out would be the output from the radio. So anything that's coming through the speaker on your radio, you could direct that to a USB sound card or a USB headset, and very easily by setting it up in here. You'll notice that it's got this plug HW card equals device. You don't have to remember that stuff unless you really want to get finicky and picky. That's why I've added this auto detect button, which is great. So if you plug in an external USB sound card to your sBitx, or you plug in a USB headset, all you have to do is press the auto detect button. It'll map that device, and so now basically anything you were hearing through the speaker on the sBitx would come out through the audio device on your sound card or your USB headset, as well as your microphone input. So you would no longer use your hand mic that plugs into the side of radio. You can now use your headset, which it makes this also useful for if you were using, say, FreeDV or some other application that's on a tablet or a computer that's connected on the same network as your sBitx. If you have that USB sound card, now you can connect that sound card to your other device, say your laptop, your computer, whatever, and you can use set up hamlib netrig control to your sBitx, and now you basically have a full functioning basically transceiver, like you would normally connecting like a 7300 or an ICOM 7 or a Yaesu 710 or 991. You'd basically plug it in, it basically operate it the same way with the third-party applications. So in order to, like, say for example, when I hit the auto detect button, it's automatically going to map both. If it recognizes both the headphones and the microphone, it's going to map both of them. If you still want to hear the audio and control the audio coming through the speaker on the sBitx, you just go on to delete that and then hit OK. If you want to disable it completely and set it back to default operation with the hand mic and the speaker audio, you would press the disable button. But in this case, since I do have a USB microphone, I'm going to leave this one populated and click OK. Now when you do make these changes, just like with the other settings, you have to close the application and then restart it for the changes to take effect. So now, if I were to transmit, I would use my USB headset, and I would use the transmit and receive buttons here. If you were using like a third-party application, you would use the hamlib network control functions as well. And I can do a separate video on that if that's necessary, which it probably would be a good idea to do that. Let's see. One of the other things I've added, another feature request, was license class indicators and out-of-band notifications. So basically what this does is it adds color strips and notifications on the screen that tells you if you're in your license class, US license class, for allowed to transmit, or if you are out of band completely. So basically each of these files can be customized. So if you're not in the United States and you have your own band plan, you can customize them as you see fit. The instructions and details of those are in the data folder, and there's files that are called OOB_limits. So let's go to the data folder here, and you'll see that we have starting here and down through here. So basically what you would do is you would rename any of these to OOB_limits.txt, and I'll demonstrate that in a moment. But what I wanted to show you is, like, if I open up all classes, this is the all classes file. You'll notice that it says if you want to use this, you will rename it as OOB_limits.txt. This file shows all 3 license classes simultaneously on the band strip. So each of these is color coded. So if you're a technician, you'll see cyan blue color strip. If you're a general, you'll see a green color strip. It means that you are allowed to transmit in that segment of the band. And if you're an extra, it'll be an amber/gold color. So anything with the hash sign or a pound sign up here is it's just informational. So you'll notice here that I did put in here, the extra portion of the US band plan. So for example, 80 meters is 3500 to 3525 is the extra only CW portion. So you'll notice that that is set up in here. For general, technician, and phone, data, and all that stuff, it's all in here. So I know with the changes of the 60 meter band, this might need to be updated at some point. But you'll notice that should have every band in here that's covered for this transceiver. So this will show all band classes, and you'll see those color strips on there. You can enable that, or you can, if you're a general and you just want to see what areas that a general has access to, you can grab this file and rename it to the OOB_limits.txt. So every time you start your sBitx, it'll have that in there. If you don't want to see, if you're an extra and you or someone who memorizes the band edges and where you can transmit, you just want to see when you're out of band, just as a visual indicator in case you end up spinning the dial up by accident, you can use this file. And all this file does is it strips all that other stuff out there. It doesn't give you any color banding or any of that stuff, but it gives you the band edges. So for example, if you are outside of the country and you just want to use this, and you know that 40 meters starts at 7050 and goes to 7200, well, you can change that in here. And I'll go ahead and demonstrate that in just a moment. And we're going to use the all classes file. So the easiest way to do this is to right click on it, do copy, and then right click on it again, and do a, let's see, copy, and let's do a paste. So now what I'm going to do is just rename this, right? OOB underscore limits.text. We're going to rename that. And as with the other things, we're going to shut down the sBitx software and then restart it so it can take effect. Now you're going to notice a really cool color strip along the waterfall here. So we can do that as well. So as you noticed, remember what green was? Green is general license. The cyan and light blue is the technician only portion. So obviously if you're a general, you have access to the technician portion of the band as well. So it stacks, you know, it goes up and down. So if we say, for example, if we go to 20 meters, you'll notice that if you're a general or above, you have access to all these frequencies until you get down to about 14.024 to 23. So this is where the extra portion of the band starts, the privileges to transmit. So, and again, if you're an extra, you have access to all the bands. And if you go below the band or above the band, the amateur radio band, you're going to get a message here that says out of band, OOB, and it's going to change this to a light yellow color. So you know that if you're transmitting, you're out of band. So you need to remember that. Now this does not take into consideration, so say if I was at 1400 and I set this to lower sideband, again, I would still be transmitting outside of my band, my band privileges here. So keep that in mind. This is more of a general indicator than anything else, but it certainly is useful in case you're, you know, you end up bumping the dial and all of a sudden you look down at your frequency and you're not even where you're supposed to be. So it's a nice thing to have. And again, if you wanted to disable that or turn that off at any time, you just go ahead and delete the OOB underscore limits.txt file, and it won't load the next time. Another great feature that I've added is I did not like the layout of the sBitx software. So I grew tired of these colors, right, in this color set, in this theme. So what I've added is styling and templates. So now you can change the many of the aspects of the GUI here, as including the colors, the fonts, and things like that. And to make it easy for you, I've added some examples in here. So we have anything that's labeled as a .tpl file is a template file that you can use. So we have cyber purple, high contrast, we have matrix style modern blue, we have several of these, and again that goes back to the sBitx toolbox where we have the style editor. So this is where all this makes sense. So if we open up style editor and we open up a template, you'll notice that it opens up all the different options here for templates. Now, all of these templates are available for the older version of the sBitx V3, the V2, and the DE that have the smaller 800 by 480 screen. The newer sBitxes that have been shipping since at least December of last year now come with a touch display too, which has a higher resolution display. And that's what you're looking at on my screen right now, is the higher resolution display that I retrofitted into my sBitx. And if you are interested in those files, you can join our Discord server, and you can see grab the files, and the information is all there, or my wiki page on GitHub. But anyways, all of these are available for that, except for the default style 2. This one is the one that we'll talk about in a little bit. But say, for example, I wanted to use, let's say, modern blue. So we're going to open up modern blue. And you'll notice that we have two different tabs here. We have colors and fonts. So these are the main colors and the backgrounds and stuff like that, different fields and whatnot. So you can change your waterfall colors, your spectrum, needle, all those different things. So these are the most of the main GUI colors. And if you wanted to change those, you just press the pick, and then you adjust these sliders here, and then click OK, and then you can go ahead and save your colors. Now over here on fonts and styles, we also have some other colors you can choose from. But in addition to that, we have things such as, like, say for example, all of these different ones, the style callee, grid, existing grid, RST time, frequency, country, distance. These are all things that are for the FTX modes. So these are the different colors that they would be. And you can also change your font type and your font size. If you have different fonts loaded on your Raspberry Pi, you can choose those from here. I did load several fonts on here that you can choose from. You don't have to just use sans serif. You can use other TrueType fonts or whatever. So one of the other great things about this is that if you wanted to change like your my call and you want it to be you don't want it to stand out, you want it to just be normal looking like normal text, you can select normal, or you can change it back to bold text. You can also make it italic if you'd like to. And you can really customize this. So that's one of the great things about this is the customization piece. Now, say for example, you wanted to save this and have this load the next time you open up your sBitx software. You're going to go ahead and click Save As. And now I'm going to type in user_style.tpl. Okay, so the sBitx is automatically, every time it starts up, it's looking for a file called user_style.tpl, and then it will load that file and give you that template. So we're going to save that, and you'll notice here in the background we have user_style.tpl. We'll go back to here. So right now it says saved as user_style.tpl. So now let's go ahead and start the sBitx application. You're going to notice a drastic change here. Our color palette has completely changed. We now have a light blue or a dark blue, navy blue background. This has changed to a lighter blue. The frequency is in gold, and we have some different highlighting for the buttons when we click on them. And our frequencies in bold, etc. So this is really great that you can do this. Let's go to here. Start pulling in some FT8 signals or decodes, and I want to show you what it looks like over here. So if you want to use this radio out in the field and you're in direct sunlight, you notice that the screen can get washed out pretty quickly. You can change the font colors, or if you are colorblind, you want to change the colors to suit your needs, you can certainly do that. Or if you're old and you have bad eyesight like I do, you can certainly make this bigger. So you can see what the colors look like here. They're a little bit more subdued. But if I wanted to go back and change, let's see, we're going to open the high contrast. So I made this one specifically for outdoors use and things like that. So right now we loaded the high contrast. I'm going to save this one as that user style. Since it's already here, I'm just going to go ahead and click it, or I could have typed it in here. And so, yes, I do want to overwrite it. And now I'm going to start the sBitx software again. And you'll notice now we have a different color palette. This one's a little bit more bold and bright. So as soon as the FT8 decodes come in here, we'll take a look at those and see how bright they are. So look at this, much easier, much easier to see in brighter light and more colorful. And again, you can adjust most of these colors. I will do a follow-up video on this in a little more detail on how to adjust these and make your own templates. So that is another great feature of this. Now, say for example, you do have one of the newer sBitxes, or you upgraded your current sBitx to the Touch Display 2, which is the higher resolution touchscreen display. And you don't want to use this small interface and have the small interface load every time. Yeah, you can expand it and make it bigger, but these buttons are still really hard to press on the higher resolution display. So one thing you can do is I've added the ability to change that window size. So you'll notice in the HomePy sBitx data folder, I now have a display_settings2.ini file. What you do is, let's go ahead and open this file, and you'll see here now you can change the display size of the application to fit whatever you want. So say for example you have a 10-inch custom display that you install on your sBitx, and you don't want to have that 800 by 480 display, which is the default. You can change it to whatever resolution you want. So on the Raspberry Pi Touch Display 2 and the new sBitxes that have been shipping, the resolution is 1280 by 720. And the instructions are here. This tells you basically everything you need to do. You need to rename this file to display_settings.ini file, or display_settings.ini. And then in this case, you notice how I already set it to 2, but you can set it back to 1 if you have the original one, but it doesn't matter. As the sBitx reads, when it loads, it's not only looking for those styling templates, but it's also looking for this as well. And if this file doesn't exist, then it automatically loads to the old smaller display. But if you did want to change this to, like, if you have a custom resolution, you would comment this out, and then you would uncomment this, and then you change your scale. So again, it says your valid range is 0.1 to 5.0. So you can make this quite big and quite small if you need to. So in our case, I'm going to leave this file as is, but I am going to rename it to display_settings.ini. And if you really want to, you can always make a copy, you can paste it, and then you can go ahead and rename it to display_settings.ini. And now that that file's in here, let's go ahead and start the sBitx application. And look what we got here. It's much bigger. But you're going to say, well, but the buttons are still really small to use, and the information's really small on the actual display on the radio. Well, that is where the templates and styling templates come into play. So not only did we change that, but now we have this default style 2, which is designed for the larger display. So let's go back to our editor and open our default_style2.tpl file. And you can go ahead and change your colors in here. You can do all sorts of fun stuff. Now, I did not add a lot of templates for the larger display here. I only added one. I'm hoping that we can get some people using this and they can contribute their own templates that they like and that other people like, and we can add them into the software here. But in this case, since I loaded that, I'm going to save this as my user_style.tpl. Again, I can click here, or I can type it in here. I'm going to click there because I'm lazy. I'm going to overwrite it and say yes. And now I'm going to open my sBitx application. You're going to notice that it looks just like the original software, except it's got bigger buttons or bigger text and bigger buttons. So now it's easier to use on the front panel display on the radio. So and every time that this file gets saved, so every time you shut down the radio and restart it. As long as you have that file named in there, it'll work just like normal. So there you go. Some really cool functions and features here. And let me look through the list. There is one thing that I do want to cover, and as we're pulling in some FT8 decodes, one of the challenges that in the past is that if you did not see a call on the screen here, and it just updated, right, and I couldn't see that call, I was like, oh darn it, I missed this Kenya call. Now we have a scroll back up to 500 lines. So you can use your mouse button, you can scroll back up to 500 lines. You can see the station that you want to contact, or if you were doing a CW contest or conversation, you could scroll back on the decodes and take a look at that up to 500 lines back. So that is a great feature that we've added in here as well. And let's see. I think that covers most of the new features. There may be a few things in here that I might have missed, and I'll have to talk about in a follow-up video. But I do want to talk about some of the changes. So again, we talked about the keypad here, some button placements, menu 1, okay. So the CW decoder. Let's go CW. Of course, I need to set this down quite a bit. Now with CW, oh, there it goes. It froze for a minute. With CW, you get the automatic decoder that comes up on the screen here. One of the things that we did is we fixed the colors. So now you can distinguish quite easily between sent and receive. If you're showing, like say for example, you're just typing free text, or you're using the macro buttons, it was kind of hard to distinguish whether or not you were, what line you were at, or if you already made that contact or said those things. Now that every time you transmit and go back to receive, it'll go to a new line, so then you can distinguish the conversation a little bit easier. The CW stats, so up here you'll see that we have our 0 beat, and if I was on a signal, it would show me the words per minute. So let's see if we can try to tune somewhere. There's a pretty strong station right there. Let me change my span down. I'll do it to 6, and then we'll change it to 100. There we go. Now we can really see. Of course, they're not as loud as they were now. So anyways, if I could find somebody here, that'd be great. I went way too fast there. But anyways, it would show you the words per minute, the spacing as well, and some other useful information when needed. There's less garbage output when we are decoding. As you'll notice, there's really not a lot of garbage showing up in this screen. So when there's just static or empty noise or just background noise, it's not going to give you. So you can see here, finally we got 25, 28 words a minute. Here's the spacing. Again, it's better to knock that down as narrow as possible if you can do that. But it'll start decoding a little bit easier, and then I can adjust my words per minute up to say 25, 26. So there you're typing CQ test here. There's better accuracy when there's a weak signal, so it better signal to noise ratio for CW decodes. Simplified the code of so we had a pretty complex method of doing TX decoding That's been simplified now. And let's see what else. Other changes. As far as the web interface goes, I'm not going to show you that right now, but I'll talk about them. So we've added new grid map options. So square or round dots, scene grids or unlocked grids. Those are different toggle options in the web control now. Web interface. So if you're using like FT8 or FT4, you can toggle those on and off. Another thing that's with the SWR and power meter on the GUI here. So it used to update every second. Now we've changed that to update every half second, and that's as fast as the SWR bridge will allow. So it'll give you better, more frequent updates for your SWR and power meter readings. The minimum power reading for SWR, it was increased to help for if you're running very low power mode. The SWR controls have been fixed. Before we were having issues with, like say for example, you set your SWR to say 2.3, and then you saved it and closed the radio and reopened it. Now it will go ahead and restore that previous setting, or if you set it to off, it'll set it max SWR to 0, it'll set it to off. So that's been fixed. Automatic the audio peak frequency is now fixed. So when you're in the menu and you turn it on or off, and then you adjust the setting, your setting will now save. So like if your gain is 4 and your APF is on, it will now retain that. So that's been fixed. There was a small change that I made to the transmit to receive. There used to be this static like sound when you switch in between. I've done the best I could to reduce that as much as possible. It's a lot less pronounced now, unless you have some DSP controls on, like your automatic noise reduction or your DSP. And let's see, we fixed the scope intensity readings, so now it loads on the previous settings. So if you go into menu 2 and you set your scope gain and your scope average, and the intensity and everything. So previously it looked like you adjusted it, but it didn't save. So now we fixed that. We fixed the macro loading problem. So if you changed modes from say FTX mode to CW, it would say the macro here would be, like something different. It would say FT8. So now it should automatically load to what the previous setting was, or a macro that's appropriate for that mode. We fixed the send RST macro. So that's this guy right here. It used to send a 5. Let's see, what did it send? It said it used to send a 5 NN, regardless of what the receive signal strength was. So now it'll send a 5.5N instead of a 5NN. Another fix that we did in the web interface is we updated the web grid map. So now the red dots will not be shown when a QSO is logged. I'm sorry, they will be shown now when a QSO is logged. Previously they were not shown. So that has been fixed as well. So I think I covered most of the new features. I may have forgotten a few, but just want to thank you for hanging out with me today and learning about some of these new things that we've been working hard on. We've been working on this for about 6 months, pouring a lot of time and effort into it, myself and the other developers. And again, we are a volunteer development group on this open source project. The software is open source. The hardware can be purchased from HF Signals, and they are the suppliers of it. So if you're interested, you can check out the links in the description below if you want to join our Discord and chat with others. We are more than happy to have you join. We are over 700 members strong, and we have a growing community. And let's see, what else do we got? If you really enjoy this content and the efforts that are put into this and you want to say thanks, you can buy us a coffee. There's a link in the description, and that money will go to help the further advancing development of the software, as well as helping out the other developers that are contributing their time. So be sure to check out our GitHub wiki page if you have some questions, as well as keep an eye out for the software. There will be a new Raspberry Pi OS image that I'm building. What you're seeing right now will be available to download, so you can put it on an SD card and load it on your sBitx and be off to the races. So again, thanks everyone for your time, and I hope you have a wonderful day. We'll talk to you soon.